Points to be made. A message to be heard. This is MultimediaJay radio style.
Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday. This is MultimediaJay radio style. Not to delay the continuation of the Parenting and the Internet series yet again, but one of the things that I've been running into while I've been doing that series is other stories in the news that make me want to make radio-style segments, but I feel like I can't because I'm doing the series. Well, I was thinking about that, and I figured, you know what? There's a reason why I gave Parenting and the Internet its own playlist, and that was in case of situations like this, where if I did stuff in between segments on that, we could have all the segments for Parenting and the Internet in their own series on their own playlist, completely absent everything else I may do in the interim. So let's make use of that setup and actually make some segments about some other stories and some other issues that have been landing in the news lately. I was looking through the Consumerist yesterday, and let me tell you, the Consumerist is an awesome site. It's over at Consumerist.com, and they do various stories about consumer issues and things along those lines. And the layout of the site kind of looks like a blog in disguise, but let's look past that for now and take a look at this story right here. Out of the Consumerist yesterday, CDC says processed foods are making kids fat. The article starts off, a major reason more than a third of American children are struggling with obesity is the copious amounts of sugar they take in every day, with processed foods providing a significant share. And in other news, water is wet. Really? Big snack food and junk food companies don't push copious amounts of sugar upon our young people? And now, after a generation of that kind of stuff, coupled with the more and more sedentary lifestyles that exist nowadays, we wonder why our young people are having health problems right alongside their parents, mind you, as this country continues to face what many call an obesity epidemic and things along those lines. But the sugar thing is nothing new. I mean, even when I was growing up, when the only people who had cell phones were people with mobile businesses, like disc jockeys, and even then, they'd probably be car phones instead of cell phones. Even in those days, where other than calling your friends on the phone, that's a phone, not a cell phone, other than calling your friends on the phone, the only way you could interact with your friends was by going and playing outside or inviting them over or going over their house or something like that. Even then, we had sugar shoved in our face. Seriously, you'd swear junk food companies were drug dealers with how they pushed the sugar right in our faces as kids. And there may be more truth to that than meets the eye, because some folks have been talking about or researching the possibility that sugar can have drug effects on the brain. Now, the results are mixed. You'll hear some people say yes and some people say no, but let's assume a yes. Let's assume that it is true and that sugar does have a drug effect on people, and people can become addicted to it and not be able to stay away from sugar for very long without getting their fix, so to speak. That would totally make sugar the most commonly used socially acceptable drug in our society. Forget caffeine, forget tobacco, forget alcohol. Sugar is where it's at. And believe me, your average kid trying to grow up and become a decent adult in this country is going to have sugar shoved in their face all over the place, whether by commercials or cereal mascots or by merchandisers who put all the sugary stuff within easy reach of a kid in supermarkets. They negotiate for that level of shelving in the stores or something like that. Sugar is all over the place. I mean, it's quite sobering. You hear folks like the angry video game nerd and the various people who were inspired by him talk about how there were things we liked as kids, but when we grew up and we gained a grown-up's perspective on things, now we look back on it all and just laugh and wonder how we could have been so stupid to get so caught up in that nonsense. And indeed, all the sugar that was pushed in our faces by people marketing it all over the place is just astounding. I mean, let's give it a whirl. Let me try thinking back to stuff I heard about all the time when I was a kid, that I wanted when I was a kid, that I thought tasted good when I was a kid. And let's see just how much I was a total sugar maniac, even though my folks did the right thing and kept me away from the extreme majority of it. Let's see. Fruit roll-ups, sugar. Kool-Aid, sugar. What else can I think of here? Cereals, let's rattle them off here. Fruit Loops, sugar. Trix, sugar. Count Chocula, sugar. Ice cream, sugar. Soda, sugar if it's not diet. Cookies, sugar. Twinkies, sugar. Cupcakes, sugar. Oh, who am I kidding? Let's look at some of the stuff listed in the article here. Granola bars. Yeah, there's some sugar in there. Cookies. I think we mentioned those. Candies. Oh, how could I forget candy? Candy as well as sugared gum. And it's funny, this article mentions canned fruit. Oh, yes, canned fruit is huge. Oh, and let's not forget juice boxes. You know, those various types of sugar water type contraptions that were so not juice that some juice companies had to actually advertise that their so-called juice boxes actually contained real fruit juice. Oh, yes. How about Capri Sun? Yeah, that was kind of sugary itself, wasn't it? Back to the whole fruit thing. I think fruit cups have got to be the most sleazy way that snack food companies snuck sugar past parents' faces and into kids' mouths. Oh man, fruit cups, let me tell you. I had those in my lunch nearly every day when I was in school because, it looked healthy because it has fruit in it. Yeah, until you read the ingredients and found out that any fruit, whether it was peaches or pineapples or what have you, that actually was in that fruit cup would actually be swimming in sugary syrup. You know, today we have all this paranoia about high fructose corn syrup, but it's nothing new either. You know, my folks back in the day knew that high fructose corn syrup was essentially sugar or something similar to sugar, so they avoided that. They avoided that just as much as they tried to avoid sugar with the stuff they gave me in my lunch, but fruit cups always seemed to be the exception. And I'm thinking just because, there's fruit in there and, it's got fruit, it's got natural sugar. Yeah, right. Yeah, try reading the ingredients on one of those things. The syrup that those things were in was often loaded with high fructose corn syrup. Something else I'm reminded of by this article is the documentary Super Size Me, if you've ever seen that talked about various other ways that big food companies like to sneak sugar under the table at kids. One scene in particular that I remember was when Morgan Spurlock visited a school, and the school was one of those school districts that was trying to do the right thing to curtail childhood obesity by banning soda. Oh yeah, remember all the controversy about soda bans a while back? Maybe it's still around, I don't know. But this was one of those schools that banned sodas. But despite banning sodas, the cafeteria at that school would serve lemonade, cans of lemonade that had as much sugar as the sodas that they had already banned. Yeah, that kind of defeats the purpose of that whole thing, doesn't it? But again, another stealthy way at pushing sugar at people under the table. Iced tea was probably a big thing for me. I remember when I first went off to college, I was looking for a way to have drinks other than water on the cheap. So I went out and bought these big things of iced tea mix. I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to have all the iced tea I want. My dad was like, are you nuts? That stuff's as bad as Kool-Aid. I was like, it's iced tea. Come on, it's tea. It's not like Kool-Aid or anything. Then I looked on the label. Oh yeah, sugar powder. It basically sugars up your water. Oops. This whole stealth sugar thing isn't just a kid thing either. Even us grown-ups can encounter situations where sugar is shoved at us under the table. I remember one time when I was at work, I went to have a sandwich at my break, and I went to get some mayonnaise for my sandwich. And here I was like, hey, what's in mayonnaise? High fructose corn syrup in mayonnaise. The stuff's not even sweet, for crying out loud. I just couldn't believe it. It was like, wow, you talk about folks that push sugar or sugary stuff or stuff that's used in place of sugar, pushing it like they're drug pushers, for crying out loud. High fructose corn syrup in mayonnaise. What in the world? And of course, another classic way of sugaring up what would otherwise be a normal meal, also mentioned in the Super Size Me movie, is ketchup. What is ketchup? It's basically sugar sauce. We wonder why we got such a problem with people eating too much sugar in this country. What are two classic American foods? Hot dogs and hamburgers. What do you put on hot dogs and hamburgers? Ketchup, sugar. Can we eat anything without sugaring it all over the place? What about relish, too? You can put relish on hot dogs, too. Doesn't relish contain sugar or high fructose corn syrup or something like that? Folks, we are hooked on this stuff. And let's also not forget another thing that the Super Size Me movie brought up. Money talks when it comes to advertising foods. And I remember that part of the movie where, Spurlock was talking about how healthy eating campaigns like the 5-a-day vegetable campaign, dollar-wise for advertising dollars, couldn't even scratch the surface of what your average candy or other junk food company threw at the market in terms of advertising. I mean, dollar for dollar, most healthy eating campaigns get absolutely buried by big food and junk food companies in terms of advertising. So they just have no chance whatsoever. It really takes someone smartening up to what exactly is going on here to really have a chance to make the so-called healthy lifestyle changes that people are constantly talking about. Oh, we want to encourage people to make good lifestyle choices. Really? With junk food advertising all over the place and any attempts at promoting healthy eating getting absolutely buried when it comes to advertising dollars and airtime, I think it's going to take more than just that kind of stuff to make any real changes around here. People need to wake up to what exactly is going on with this kind of stuff, because seriously now, I'm starting to think that it's not exaggerating to say that companies pushing sugar all over the place at both young people and grown-ups are basically socially acceptable drug pushers with the product that they're pushing. In any event, I hope this discussion on sugar addiction, so to speak, is a real eye-opener, because it was a real eye-opener for me. I mean, we are totally and completely hooked on this stuff. And you know what they say, the first step to recovery is acknowledging that there's a problem in the first place. Hey, cool, check it out. 11 minutes just out of responding to one Consumerist article. Well, yeah, definitely check this article out. They also have a link to the original CBS News story that they got this blog post from, or I don't even know if this site's a blog. It looks like a blog, but it's kind of more serious. Well, who says blogs can't be serious? I don't know. Either way, definitely check out The Consumerist over at Consumerist.com, and we'll definitely be responding some more stories later on as well. But yeah, sugar addiction is definitely an issue in our society nowadays. It's just one of those things that the folks behind it have just been so good at shoving under the table or sliding under the radar, so to speak, that it really does take, becoming aware of what's going on to really respond to this type of stuff and make the kinds of choices that would lead to healthier lifestyles and avoiding being, such a sugar addict in the first place. In any event, that'll be it for now, so till next time, this is MultimediaJay Radio Style. Don't touch that dial.